everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I thought we would go over the books that I acquired over the holidays. For Christmas, I received 3 books. I purchased them myself, but I had my mom bring them over from the US when she came to visit me. And then the 3 other books I acquired in Singapore when I went on my end of the year vacation, where I ended up going to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. I went to Yogyakarta in Indonesia, and then I went to Singapore. Singapore was the city I spent the longest time in. I spent a full 5 days there, and I had a really, really great trip. But let's start with the books that I ordered for myself and had my mom bring over to me. There were more books that I wanted or that I could have bought, but I did limit myself to just 3. I felt that at this time my TBR is already quite full as it is. I didn't feel there wasn't too much urgency to get new books. So I got 3 books that most align with my current interests. So the first book is True Grit by Charles Portis. This is the book. I had seen the movie a long time ago with Matt Damon. It's a fantastic movie. I didn't realize it was a book, but I should have, because most of the great movies are based off of great books. But I did learn it was a novel, and I really wanted to read it ever since then. I'm definitely a big fan of reading about the American West, both reading nonfiction, but also fictional works. I grew up watching cowboy movies dubbed in French with my grandfather. I know Clint Eastwood's voice better in French than I do in English. That's the point in which we watch cowboy movies every summer. But yeah, this is just great Americana, great story. I'm very excited to read the novel that the amazing movie came from. So this is a book that fits right into what I've been reading lately. The next book is called Rivertown, 2 Years on the Yangtze by Peter Hessler. This is a travelogue, or it's a travelogue, kind of a memoir. This book was recommended to me by a friend. She is one of the smartest people I know. She's incredible. She's half Chinese, half English. She's an ambassador here in Japan. Like, seriously, like, she's at a level that I envy, that I wish I could be at. But she recommended this book to me, and if she recommended this book to me, there's definitely a reason, and I knew I had to get this. She recommended this to me at least like 6 years ago, so it's taken a while for me to get my hands on it. But basically, this is an American who went to this small little town called Funing in China. He was a Peace Corps volunteer, and he ended up teaching English and American literature. And this is just his book about 2 years in that area, interacting with the Chinese people there, especially in a time period where the country was evolving at a fairly significant pace. Again, she recommended this to me, and I know that if she read it and enjoyed it, then I will most likely enjoy it. So I'm very excited to have finally pushed the button, or whatever, clicked the button, or made the final decision to actually buy this. So the next book I bought was inspired by a nonfiction work that I read this past summer called The Color of Law. The Color of Law was fantastic. It explores the system of systematic racism towards Black people came to be in the United States. It goes over how laws were manipulated and used and created to aid in segregating the Black community from the white community. And in that very excellent book, the author kept referencing the book that inspired him, and that he considers to be one of the best books about social issues in America based off of Black Americans. And that book is called The New Jim Crow, about the mass incarceration in the age of colorblindness by Michelle Alexander. I mean, this book is very well known. It's considered basically one of these, seriously, probably the best book on the topic, and one of the best nonfiction books in general that you can read. And so this went straight to my wish list when I read The Color of Law, and I knew that I would be reading this very, very soon. So you can look forward to me reading this in 2026. I'm just so excited to read this. This is also the 10th anniversary edition, where the author writes a new preface, which will be very exciting to read, because it's always interesting to see authors come back to their most famous works 10 years down the line to see progress, or more likely in these situations, the lack of progress, and oftentimes even a regression. So even in The Color of Law, that book was also, I believe, I don't know if it was a 10-year edition, but it was definitely a later edition, where in the back he had answered some questions that people had raised while reading his book. I remember when I read Columbine, which is about the Columbine shooting at the Columbine High School in Colorado. That was, I think, a 25th anniversary edition, where the author had written a new epilogue about the state of mass school shootings in the US at the time, and how little has progressed since he had originally written that book. So yeah, I'm looking forward to every aspect of this. And yeah, again, you'll see this in 2026. So those are the books that I had my mom bring over from the US. Then when I went abroad, I knew I wanted to visit some bookstores, so I definitely looked up bookstores that I could visit. Kuala Lumpur, there was only one that came up that was sort of in the area, and that was in the vicinity of what I would be visiting. I did go there looking for nonfiction works particularly. I was hoping for some history on Malaysia, but I was also up to reading some Malaysian authors. But the particular bookshop, and I am actually going to do a separate video on the bookshops that I visited in these countries, so definitely look forward to that. And so I won't go into very much detail, but that bookshop was very Instagram friendly. It was very book talk friendly. So all the books there were sort of what's popular there. Most people were taking pictures rather than actually buying books. And it was actually very difficult to find anything, to be honest. So I didn't get anything in Kuala Lumpur. And then equally in Yogyakarta, that's not really the type of city where there's a bookstore in every corner, and definitely not a city where the bookstores that exist are very accessible as a tourist. That is a city that relies quite a bit on having your private vehicle, particularly a scooter, because the city is huge. It's really, really big. Everything is incredibly spaced out. And it's not a very walkable city because there aren't really too many sidewalks. When there are sidewalks, the concrete's all broken up. There are scooters parked all along the sidewalks. There are people selling food all along the sidewalks. So it's just not a very walkable city. So I wasn't able to visit any bookstores there. I went all the way to, the way the map was oriented on my Google Maps was the southwest corner of the map. I had gone over there to see some art galleries, and one of the art galleries was like arts, coffee, and books. And I was like, I was really excited. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go see some art and some books. I don't care about the coffee because I don't like coffee. But when I got there, there was no art, no books. They only had coffee. Like it was brand new, and they hadn't yet completed 2 of the 3 tasks that they were supposed to be doing. So Indonesia also failed in terms of finding the books. But Singapore, though, had a lot of bookstores. I visited so many bookstores. However, in the case of Singapore, the books are so expensive. Because every book is pretty much an import, and the import prices are just crazy ridiculous. So I only bought 2 books, and the price of the 2 books just by themselves ended up being $70 US. So it's a lot of money. I was only able to get my hands on 2 books. The first book that I got, I ended up picking up at the National History Museum in Singapore. Unfortunately, the history wing of the National History Wing was closed for renovations. It's not going to open up until 2026. I was so upset because that's like the thing I was looking forward to the most in terms of the museums there. But they did have like a micro exhibition about the history of Singapore that was interesting, and it was well done, but I wanted more. But I did go to the gift shop. I was looking forward to the gift shop because I figured they'd be selling some nonfiction. And I was torn between a general history of Singapore, but I decided to hone in on just one aspect. So I ended up getting The Defense and Fall of Singapore by Brian P. Farrell. Turns out this is a signed edition, so yay for that. But yeah, The Defense and Fall of Singapore between 1940 and 1942. This book talks about how Singapore basically just declared defeat when the Japanese troops came in. So if you've been to my channel, you know that I read a lot about Japan. I live in Japan. I read quite a bit of history. The only thing is that, the thing is that I used to read a lot about Japan during World War II. I haven't really done that recently, so people might not realize that. But I still have a tendency to collect books about Japan during World War II. I just need to go back to that topic of interest. I haven't really done it in a while. But I have not read anything about their time during Singapore. I read about them for the Death March. I read about them in Shanghai. I read about them in Nanking. I've read about them in the Philippines. I've read about them in Korea, and I've read about, but I haven't done Singapore yet. So I am excited about this, but admittedly, I need to tell myself, okay, you need to go back to that topic because you have so many books on your TBR about this topic and you haven't read them in a while. So in any case, this is the book that I chose for when I was at the National History Museum. So very excited about this. Then I had looked up the best bookshops in Singapore, and Kinokuniya came up. Kinokuniya is a Japanese bookstore chain. It's fantastic in Japan. If you're in Tokyo and you live in Tokyo and you want foreign books, go to the Kinokuniya in Shinjuku by Takashimaya department store. That's where all the best selection of English books are. But it does not compare to the Singapore Kinokuniya store. The Singapore Kinokuniya store is ridiculous. It is huge. It's massive. The selection was incredible, just absolutely beautiful. And the Asian history section, holy crap, so good. Like, there were so many books there I had never heard of, I had never seen there. The selection was immaculate. And it was like separated by country. So there was all the Asian history about China, all the Asian history about Japan, all the history about Malaysia, Singapore, and then like Hong Kong, and like it just kept separating more and more, and Thailand and the Philippines, and it just kept going and it kept going. And I'm like, oh my gosh. There were so many books I wanted to buy and I was keen. And but again, those import prices, they hurt a lot. So I only picked up one book. And I picked up this book because as I was looking, I got stuck in front of the bookshelf for History of China. And every time I picked up a book, I would pick up a book, put it down, and then this girl, I picked up like 4 different books that I looked at, and then I put them down because I was still exploring, still in the exploring phase, not committing to anything yet. And this girl came by, about same age as me, I would say. And she came by and she picked up every single book that I had just picked up. And I was like, holy crap, you have like the same taste as me. She was wearing headphones, but she took them off when she realized I was talking to her. And I said, you have like the same taste as me. Like, you're picking up the exact same books that I'm picking up. So we ended up chatting for a bit. And she asked me for recommendations because I do read more than her in terms of Asian history. She's still like trying to get into it. So I recommended a bunch of books to her. But she had heard of a few books that I hadn't heard of, and there were 2 biographies that she said, these are really popular right now, and I went for one of them. I debated between the 2, but I went and chose this book. I chose the Revolutionary Life of Deng Xiaoping by Alexander W. Pantsov. I just realized that sounds like pants off. That's not the pronunciation I was trying to go for, but yeah, that's the author's name. And biography. So Deng Xiaoping was the sort of the one of the right hand mans of Mao. But when Mao died, he basically came to lead, and he was the one that brought Mao's China to closer to what it is now. So huge figure in Chinese history. And I thought, you know what, this is the book I'm going to go for. It is 50 Singapore dollars, which is so expensive. It is heavy. I mean, to be honest, it is a very heavy book, but it's, yeah, I just think it's very fascinating. Also, it's not as long as you think. This book is so heavily researched that the book actually ends here, and all of this is like an index and the bibliography. Like, it's crazy how researched this was. Like, this is ridiculous. There's that much that is just bibliography. So yeah, so I picked up this book. And then I have one more book to show you. So while I was in Singapore, I had the incredible opportunity to meet two viewers. Yeah, just so hello Joel, and then hello to the wonderful and incredibly friendly and the most nicest people I've ever met, Sally. Sally, although I couldn't spend a long time with her, she really made the effort to come meet with me, like, incredibly, and she gave me the gift of this book called Sister Snake by Amanda Lee Ko. She wanted me to be introduced to Singaporean literature, and she told me that this is one of her beloved authors, and this is the one of her newest releases. It's about two sisters. One of them lives the sort of more standard traditional relationship you would have. She's married to a conservative person. She lives in Singapore, while the other sister lives a more rambunctious lifestyle. She lives in New York City. She meets all these different people. She has like the freedom to sort of do what she wants. And the relationship between the sisters is actually a retelling of a legend, or not a legend, but a folktale from China. It's the legend of the white snake. So that's why you have Sister Snake. So I'm looking forward to reading this. It is a little bit out of my comfort zone, a little bit. So Sally, please don't hate me if I end up not liking the book. Just in case. I'm not saying I won't like the book. I'm just saying it's a very different choice for me. But I am very looking forward to at least exploring it and seeing why you love it so much. So I'm very excited. Thank you so much. Like, if you ever get the chance to meet Sally, I'm not gonna like show her face, but if you have a chance to meet Sally from Singapore, she's amazing. And Joel's a very good person as well. Very good. We had really fun conversation over dinner. Really fun time. So thank you so much, you two, for giving me a wonderful, for helping like add to my Singapore experience. It was just a really lovely time. So there you go. Those are the 6 books that I acquired over the holidays. I'm excited. I think there's actually a high likelihood that I read a lot of these within 2026 and I don't postpone them for too long. So look forward to that. And yeah, I'll see you in my next video. Bye.